Hey guys, it's Sam. If you have followed me on any social platform before, you know that I have not posted a video on YouTube in like 3.5 years. I just went back to check and my most recent videos from January 2022. I used to do a lot of like vlogs and try on hauls, and honestly, some of them got pretty good views. But I'm just such a different person than I was during that time in my life. I decided to start fresh. It just felt right. Who knows, maybe I'll make some of those videos available again if I keep this up. But for now, we're just gonna say welcome to my new channel. A lot has changed since we last spoke. I left corporate America to work for myself. I went on reality TV, just for a little bit. That was not like a long-term thing. I'm in love with a man. And the last update, which brings me to the point of this video, is that I bought an apartment in New York with my own very grown-up money. And originally when I bought it, the idea was that this would be my Carrie Bradshaw apartment. I was single. It's little, it's like cute. I was like, it's gonna be a girl cave. So I got a purple couch and like all this crazy art, and I was gonna put like cheetah wallpaper in the foyer. Anyway, there were a couple actual solid reasons that I wanted to buy an apartment instead of just continuing to rent, which is what I was doing before. The first thing that kind of inspired it is that I was ready to stop living with roommates and live on my own. But rent in New York is crazy bananas, and I literally couldn't afford it. So I had to buy a whole house instead. This was a long conversation with my parents where we basically did the math on how much money I would save by investing into a property versus spending money on rent that kind of goes nowhere. It's almost like lighting your money on fire. Like you're basically paying a fee to experience New York City and you never see a return on that investment, at least financially. And after doing the math on what it would cost for like 1 year to pay into a mortgage and build equity in the asset versus pay rent, we figured out that I was gonna save like 50 grand or so in rent in only 1 year, because it's a huge decision. And I said to my mom, like, what if this is a big mistake? And she was like, then you sell it in a year for hopefully the same price you bought it or higher, and you saved 50 grand. And I was like, great point. Anyway, so the first reason was it was just like a better financial choice for me. The second reason is I was thinking about my future children, and I know that's crazy for a single 26-year-old girl to be thinking about, but that's how your girl plays the game. It's a long game. And I'm a planner, what can I say? For those of you who don't know, I grew up in New Jersey, and I just remember commuting for all of my internships in the city. And there's just something about being able to experience New York 100% when you don't have to like catch the last train home or like wake up at 5 a.m. to like get to your job that I think I really would have loved when I was like between 18 and 21. And so I think it would be cool for my kids to have that opportunity to like experience the city as a resident, like fully independent without really like restrictions on like when you can be there, if that makes sense. I just feel like it's like a more 360-degree experience. And of course it would be great for them financially to have a place where they can either pay rent to me so that I can like save it or invest it for them, or not pay rent at all. TBD on like what my parenting is gonna look like, but I just figured it was not a bad idea to own something that they would have access to if they decided to be in New York. And the last reason's a little cheesy, but I just love this city and I want to always have a tiny little corner of it that is just mine forever, for as long as humanly possible. It would literally break my heart to come visit my own city one day and have to stay in a hotel, you know? Anyway, that's how we got here to this video. I knew immediately when I saw this apartment that it was the one, but I also knew immediately that it wouldn't be fully the one unless I could make some pretty legit changes. And the two changes in particular that I'm talking about are, one, I wanted to add air conditioning. A lot of pre-war buildings in New York don't have AC, like they don't have central air. So people will use window units. And honestly, I just don't have that much window space because we're in New York and everything is tiny, and natural light is so important to me for my mental health. Like I just need the sun to touch my skin. So I didn't want to take up a quarter of my window space with an ugly air conditioning unit. So the first thing I wanted to do was install air conditioning through the wall so that I wasn't like dying in the summer. I have air conditioning, but I'm not sacrificing the natural light. And then the second big change is I wanted to gut renovate the kitchen. Casual, I know. I feel like a very big girl for saying it. The original kitchen, I'm gonna put here so that you guys can see it. It's just It was very outdated. It was like brown and silver and black. That's like a lot of colors going on. The microwave looked like it was from the year 1900, basically. The fridge was super weird. No freezer, so just like a tall, skinny fridge. It was kind of like a back of house restaurant fridge. Like when you open it, it was all silver inside and like very deep, but very narrow. It was like 20 inches wide. I also didn't really like that the cabinets were all different heights. Like the bottom comes down here and then it's like shorter on the middle ones. It just felt kind of sloppy to me. And overall the color scheme was just not giving. I also felt like it would make the space feel a lot bigger if the cabinets were white and the, you know, it kind of just blended into the rest of the space, which in my head had like slightly brighter white walls, because like the walls when I moved in were like a little bit of like a buttery yellow. So I just kind of wanted to like make everything feel bigger, a little airier, a little more modern and updated, but I still wanted to give it some personality. Like I didn't just want like basic white. We're not doing like the white and gray thing, like that millennial garbage. We're not doing that. So here's what happened. I moved in about 16 months ago. I only got approval on both of these projects, the air conditioning and the kitchen, like literally 2 months ago. I live in a co-op, which basically means I'm a shareholder in the building. So if you think about the building as like split into a bunch of shares and a bunch of people own it, however much money you spend on your apartment correlates to the amount of shares in the building that you own. But that means that we have like a board that makes all these decisions about what you can and can't do to the building. So you need approval from the board to do any sort of renovation. And then since the air conditioning was gonna go through the exterior wall of the building, we also had to loop in the Department of Buildings of New York City. My apartment is like this big. I swear to God, if you had told me that I was gonna have to be on the phone and like in meetings with like the city of New York over this, I would have laughed at you. But who's laughing now? Not me, that's who. Anyway, it was a long and grueling process and extraordinarily expensive, but I kind of knew that going in, so I was like a little bit prepared. But I'll tell you what, it's like a little tough on the mental health when you are living for a year in a thing that you spent so much money on and it just like doesn't feel like your home yet. Like it kind of felt like I was living in the previous owner's home like temporarily, you know what I mean? Anyway, I basically worked really closely with the team for the air conditioning to like get that done while I was out of town. I went on a retreat with a bunch of tech founders, including my boyfriend, for like a little over a week in Costa Rica, and literally they just did it while I was gone. It was a little bit of drama. They punched the hole in the wrong place. It was supposed to be under the window on the right side, and unfortunately they put the big hole in the middle. So my contractor showed up to check on their progress and texted me a pic and was like, "Is that correct?" And I was like, "No, but I'm in Costa Rica." So it was a little traumatizing, but long story short, they fixed it and like finished the whole project while I was out of town still. So I got home and there was air conditioning. And thank God, because New York had like 18 103-degree days in a row right after that. Anyway, with that done, it was time to finally start like really turning the wheels on the kitchen project. Now we had done the whole board thing, the approvals process, the drawings, whatever. I'm not really gonna talk about that stuff because it's different for every building, it's different for every co-op, it's different in every city, and like, it's also kind of boring. But today we're here to talk about the aesthetics, the way it looks, and I'm gonna answer a bunch of your guys' questions that you submitted to me on Instagram. If you don't follow me there, it's just at Samantha Feher. Hit me up. I love to hear from you, I love to chat with you, and I am on Instagram every second of every day, so if you ever wanna chat like ASAP Rocky, hit me there. Anyway, I picked my interior designers and my general contractor for the project in advance. The interior designers are amazing. I interviewed like 12 different interior designers for this project because it's a super small space. And again, co-ops have a ton of regulatory stuff. And if you aren't familiar with it, it's like tons of red tape, tons of roadblocks. It's really hard to communicate. It's hard to understand like why these things are happening, and like it's easy to get frustrated. And if you break any rules, you get in some serious trouble. So it was just really important to me that they could do small space, logistically do small space. When I say small space, like my whole kitchen is like about 6 feet wide. So like so tiny. And then people who were also familiar with and had experience with working with co-ops. So the girls I ended up picking, their names are Nikki and Brittany, and they're the best. Their firm is called Forma Collective. They both worked at like bigger interior design firms, okay girl, separately before going out on their own and doing this. So I knew they had like experience in the industry. They weren't just like brand new to it. And they're also like my age and cool and have good taste and understand like what I was looking for aesthetically. But the thing that really stood out most to me about their interview and like to me set them apart from all the other designers was I said to them, I really want to maximize the space and make it super functional and useful and prioritize the things that I care about, even though we only have 6 feet. And they came with a pitch deck full of little ideas for maximizing the space. They were like, we could do a rolling island on wheels. We could do like a pull-out cutting board that like kind of like melts into the cabinets, but then it like flips out like kind of like a school desk, like the kind that's attached to the chair. And then they showed me all these like storage hacks. Like they pulled together something that was really thoughtful and inspired. And I just knew immediately whether or not I was gonna use those hacks, that they were thinking the same way I was. And they were just like thinking in a way that I knew would be the right fit for the space. And then picking my contractor was super easy. There's this guy who basically was, I think he was employed by the building for a long time, and he literally had an office inside of our building. And he's done a ton of work in this specific building. So he's like gone through the board. He knows the building like the back of his hand. He has storage space down in the basement where he puts like appliances and tools and all that stuff. So he has access to all his stuff all the time. And then I guess he like went out on his own, but basically still does so much work in the building that they kept his office. He just like still has an office here. And I met him a couple times, told him about my project, and he was like, I could do this in my sleep. And again, my #1 priority is experience with the co-op and like bonus points for having experience with the building. So I knew who my team was gonna be. And when I tell you that they are like my saviors, it is so involved, it is so complicated, it's exhausting and frustrating. Like this whole thing has been rewarding, but like a lot. And I honestly don't, like if I had other people who were hard to work with or didn't know what they were doing, I would be a wreck. So highly recommend, if you want more information on how to contact them or whatever, just hit me up. I will privately message you about them. They're amazing. So if you're in New York and you're looking for help with a small space renovation or a co-op, literally have got the people for you. Anyway, let's start with what the design choices were gonna be. This is the rendering that my interior designers and I put together. The girls like made the rendering obviously, but this came after a couple of meetings where we jointly decided like what the color scheme would be, like what the hardware would look like, what kind of stone we were looking at, and I'm obsessed. We originally had this sort of like casing of marble that went all the way around like the side walls in the little kitchenette, and I loved that. I thought it was so polished and unique and like interesting. But we went to a stone yard to pick the exact piece of stone that I wanted to be the backsplash and countertop, and it just wasn't big enough to include all of that, and it would have been like way more expensive. And to be honest, this renovation for the 6-foot kitchen was already bleeding me dry, and I was just like, I cannot afford that. So we sacrificed the casing, but a lot of this other stuff actually ended up coming through. So I was really excited about this vision and just felt like it would really open up the space and also achieve the kind of like modern look I was looking for, while also having some personality. Like it's not just like grayish, which is so not me. Anyway, once we actually started busting up the kitchen, things have started to move really fast. That was like 2.5 weeks ago. It looked like this. They like showed up at my house and they were like, we're gonna start. And I was like, okay. And then 2 hours later, I came out of my bedroom where I was doing some work, and it was gone. The whole kitchen was gone. And I was like, okay. Anyway, over the next 2-ish weeks, the cabinet guys came, they were doing the hardware, they were paneling the appliances, like they were like really starting to make progress, and it was very exciting for a girl who's waited 16 months for any of this to happen. Long story short, we are almost done with the entire home now. We're actually like just waiting for one more panel on the appliances and for them to put the knobs and the pulls on. And you can probably hear right now my contractor and his team are just in the other room starting to paint the walls of everything. So once that's done and the kitchen's done, we're like done. So it's all very exciting, and this is what the kitchen is looking like right now at the time we're making this video. And I'm sure I'll update you guys once the painting is done so that you can see like the full finished product and like the final, like the whole finished thing with like the panel on the refrigerator thing. Anyway, but I've been posting about this renovation on Instagram, and I'm getting a ton of DMs to the point where I cannot even keep them organized or respond to all of them. So I decided to put a Q&A box on my Instagram stories just to like organize and gather all of your guys' questions so that I could answer them in a video to the best of my ability without like my whole team sitting here with me. And I figured it might just be helpful for anyone who's doing a similar process or like has a small space or is working on picking out a stone or like looking for a team to help them, like an interior designer, a contractor, all of that. And then also some of you guys just like want to know about my life and my thing, and I've been posting about it and you're curious. So I'm just gonna answer the questions in the order that they came in because I didn't really prep for this video, obviously. So let's do it. There were 2 questions that I got over and over and over, and I'm pretty sure like 70% of these submissions are actually just those 2 questions. So I'm gonna answer them first, just get them out of the way. And I do wanna say, there's a nice way to ask questions, and not all of you guys asked in a nice way. Some of you had a little snark, and it's like, this is very expensive and I'm doing my best and I'm showing you something that I'm really proud of. So let's be friendly. So just saying that before I answer the questions, this is weird behavior. The first question is that your only sink? And if so, why is it this big? Here's the thing. My number 1 rule about the kitchen, like when we're talking about actually using it, is that I don't keep dishes in the sink. It's my number 1 rule when I had roommates. It's my number 1 rule for when my boyfriend moves into my apartment next week. Like, that's the first thing I tell everyone. It's like, my personal ground rules for the home are that there's no dishes in the sink. Here's why. New York is notorious for cockroaches, bugs, rats, mice. Thankfully, I have never seen any of those things in my building or in my home, or honestly, like even like right around my building. But do you think I'm gonna risk that? I'm just gonna leave a buffet in my kitchen. What? Also, it like smells, it's ugly to look at, it just feels like clutter, it feels like there's this like chore sitting in the background of your whole life while you're living it. So that is like a huge deal for me. And to be honest, I have a dishwasher. Like part of this kitchen, I'll like maybe put an arrow or something to it. You can't tell like off the bat because it's paneled like it's a cabinet to make it blend in, but I have a huge full-size dishwasher in here. Like it's narrow, yeah, but it fits like 2, 3, 4 days worth of dishes. And most people in New York, if you talk to them, run their dishwasher at least every single day or at least every other day, like minimum. So my rule is like you use a dish, you rinse it off and it goes straight in the dishwasher. It doesn't even touch the bottom of the sink. And other than that, my only priority with the sink is that I can drink the water. And I'm kind of on a health journey these last couple years and I'm not into tap water. Everyone says New York has the best tap water. That might be true, but the bar is pretty low. What, the best tap water? Like, I implore you to locate pictures of the city pipes, the water pipes. You'll throw up. I'm not drinking that. There's no way it's healthy. So filtered water is a must for me, but I hate the Brita thing. And also, didn't something come out about those like not really being effective? So I wanted a cold water tap by the sink, and that was really like it. I wanted the gold hardware, that was important to me. And I think that the hardware turned out really beautiful, and to me, the sink is totally functional. Yes, it's tiny, but like I'm not anticipating stuff being in there literally ever. And I pretty much don't buy things that you need to hand wash. Like I do have some like Le Creuset ceramics, those can go in the dishwasher. I don't have a cast iron skillet, even though that's like a future dream thing to have for me, because like I'm not cooking Thanksgiving dinner in here. I'm not like making steaks all that often. Like, and I can make steaks in the pans that I do have that you can put in the dishwasher. So overall, having a dishwasher and having space for a fridge, obviously some kind of fridge, was important to me. And then like having an oven is important to me. So like we're working with very limited space in New York. It's very expensive to buy a home in New York. I did my best, you know what I mean? Like I found the one I loved the most and it happened to have a tiny kitchen. That was okay with me. I was willing to like sacrifice that space. And that's why the sink is so little. That's it, that's the reason. But I'm really happy with how it looks. I think it's like really beautiful. I am really happy with the cold water tap. I'm really happy with the hardware. And I think it looks nice. And it was more important for me for the sink to look nice and beautiful and have the drinkable water than it was to be able to like wash a huge pot in it. Like, it was just like not my priority. So that's that. And to all of you who asked that question in a snarky way, F you. And to all of you who asked the question in a nice way, I love you, and that's the answer. Second question, where's your refrigerator? I get it, I get it. Let's talk. When I told my interior designers I wanted to like make the space feel bigger, a huge part of that, given that the kitchen is 6 feet wide, was that like 2 of those 6 feet were fridge, and then 2 of the 6 feet were oven, and then like 1 of the 6 feet was sink. So if you did the math there, that's 5 feet of what could be like counter space being taken up by appliances. And I said, that's so annoying. That's what I said. And they came up with this really brilliant solution to that problem. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, this is not a good solution for everybody. I grocery shop every day. I live on a block where there are 3 local markets at my intersection. It takes less than 45 seconds for me to get to the closest grocery store. And I'm really big on fresh food, especially produce and meat and poultry, like stuff like that. So I'm probably at the grocery store once, maybe twice every single day that I eat at home. Like, and I don't mind going to get something. It's actually a really good excuse for me to get out from behind my computer and like be in the world and get some fresh air and some sunlight and socialization. I like it. But if that's not you, or if you live in like a house, for example, and you have to like drive to a grocery store and that's a nightmare, I'm not saying you need to do this. I'm just saying this is what I did. And I think everyone should respect that. Anyway, the girls came back with this brilliant idea. They said, what if we get you refrigerated drawers? Like beverage drawers. They're basically like beverage pull out drawers that are refrigerated. And I know they look tiny. I know. They are a little bit tiny, but I currently have probably like 75 energy drinks in there because I don't have groceries right now because they're still like kind of working in there, so I can't really get in and out of the kitchen yet. So I can get in there. The only time I can really access the kitchen right now while they're still working on it is in the morning before they arrive, which they always arrive at 9 o'clock. So like when I go to my workout in the morning at like 6:30 or 7 or 7:30, I can pop in, grab an energy drink out of there and go. So it's like literally full. It looks like a store. It looks like an energy drink store, a shop. Anyway, I actually fit a ton of energy drinks in there and I was kind of like, oh, like this is gonna be fine. And I've gotten takeout a couple times the last couple weeks while they were working on this, just because again, like I can't cook. And if I'm not gonna like go sit at a restaurant, I'll get takeout and like whatever, sit on the literal empty floor in my living room right now and eat the takeout. And I had leftovers from the takeout and I put them in there, fine. Like I'm never gonna be a girl who at least in my apartment, who has like a full stocked fridge with like meal prep and veggie. It's just not my life. It will probably be my life when I have a house in the suburbs one day and a huge like double door fridge. Like I want like a walk-in fridge. Like I love to cook. I just like don't always have time. And if I do cook here in New York, it's gonna be like I grocery shop for it the same day. It's just my life and that's okay. But when we decided on this, I already knew that. I already had been living here for a long time, and every time I cooked, I went to the store first. So like, that's already how I was living. This isn't like a big change for me, I guess is what I'm saying. And no, there's no freezer, but again, there was no freezer in my last fridge that I've been living with this last year. In the fridge that this place came with, I told you, it's like a back of house restaurant refrigerator. It was probably for like produce. There was no freezer. At first I was like, oh, frick, like I can't live here without a freezer. What am I gonna do with my ice cream? What am I gonna do with my Trader Joe's samosas? Haven't missed any of it. Actually, I love going out to get ice cream. My boyfriend and I go for a walk to get ice cream. The walk home kills the glucose spike. It's good for many reasons. It works for us. Anyway, I knew I was not gonna miss the freezer after living for a year without a freezer and being totally fine not missing it a single time. And I knew that like for my space, for my priorities of making it look beautiful and open up some space, make it feel airy and make it feel beautiful, I knew that this was gonna work for me. I was comfortable with this decision before I made it. That's why I spent all this money making it. Anyway, we went with the fridge drawers and they are paneled also. So like the dishwasher is paneled, the fridge drawers are paneled. That's why you're all like, do you even have a fridge? The answer is yes. It's just behind those panels and you can tell because the top one is not paneled yet. And so in this image you can see there. And the handles were just, after we panel them, we just attach the handles and you can pull out the drawers. And honestly, I think it's working out great because to me, it's beautiful and functional for what I'm doing with my life. So those were the main 2 questions. And honestly, I don't even think there are that many more, but I'm going to answer the rest of them too. One of the questions I actually got asked a lot now that I'm looking is, do you own your apartment? Because like, how could you do this in a rental? And I know I just told the whole story of buying the apartment. So the answer is yes, I own the apartment, and that's why I'm able to do these things. Some rentals let you renovate, paint, whatever, not all of them. So definitely ask your super or your like landlord or your building owner before you do anything like this. I mean, I had to get permission, and I spent $1 bajillion on this place owning it. So definitely ask permission if you're gonna make those changes. Someone says, how much did the marble cost? So let's talk about the marble for a sec. This is a Calacatta Viola, I think it's a Calacatta Brescia Viola marble. And at first we were looking at like a really strong black and white marbling, which you can see here in the rendering, because I was like, oh, like black and white, that's a vibe. But my couch is like this like red winey sort of purple color, which maybe I'll put a clip here if I can take one that shows the color, but if not, then that's just gonna be empty space and that's gonna sound stupid. Anyway, the couch is that color and I love that color. And then I started incorporating that color and other like kind of red wine tones of all varieties. Like there's a burgundy, there's a maroon, there's like a little bit of purpley everywhere. Anyway, I started incorporating different like varietals of that color into the space. And I was like, we went to the Stone Yard, myself and my Brittany and Nikki, the interior designers. We went to the Stone Yard in person and we like walked around, and I'll show you a picture of kind of like what it looks like. You basically walk around and there's all these like slabs of marble everywhere. And it's so beautiful and it's so fun because you're like, that's my kitchen. That one's my kitchen. It's just fun. Anyway, we looked and there was a really strong contrast marble, which is what I wanted. I knew I wanted a Calacatta Brescia Viola, but there was one with like that purpley wine color. And I was like, how often do you get a crazy purple couch and then like something in the world just matches it perfectly? Like it kind of just felt like the right thing to do. I was like, that opportunity definitely doesn't come around that often. So let's buy this. And I'm really glad we did because I think it's perfect and I'm really obsessed with it. To answer the question of how much it costs, unfortunately a lot, because that's a very expensive piece of stone. I don't really know why, maybe it's rare, but I know it's also very fragile, very delicate. Like it can scratch easily, it can stain easily. If they like drop it even a little bit, it'll like crumble. And again, I knew that going into this and I still made the decision to do it because I wanted it to be beautiful and I wanted it to be aesthetically flawless for me. That's like my priority with this. And also because I don't drink anymore. I don't drink red wine. I like, yes, sometimes cook with tomatoes and tomato sauces, whatever. I'm pretty careful. I'm not really a mess maker. And it's also not like you spill it and then it's like instantly ruined forever. Like if you don't let it sit overnight like that, then it's not gonna be completely destroyed. So I said, F it, and I just like love this stone, so we're gonna do this stone. I think all in, between the actual marble and the fabrication, which is when they like cut it to your specific dimensions and they like do the finishing so that it's like polished or sealed or whatever, and like installing it, I'm pretty sure it was $9,000. And that's a lot of money. At least it felt like a lot of money for me, especially for such a small space. And again, like we didn't have enough of the marble to do the casing around the sides of the kitchen. So it felt like a lot just to do the backsplash and countertop. And other people are gonna be like, this is so stupid, you made a huge mistake. At first my mom said that because my mom was like, our whole kitchen in New Jersey costs like that to like renovate the whole kitchen. And it's just like what it is. It's an expensive stone. It's a difficult fabrication. They had to install it. It's a co-op thing. It's a like there's just like a lot of different reasons it was expensive. And I'm sure I could have gotten something less expensive. I'm sure I could have, but I paid for convenience. I paid for the interior designers to help me. I paid for the exact piece of stone that I wanted, and I paid for like, it's my money. I don't know why I'm justifying this. Anyway, it was roughly $9,000. And this is gonna sound so crazy, but I've been paying a lot of bills lately for this renovation, like between the air conditioning one and the kitchen one and like all the different vendors and contractors. I'm pretty sure in total it was 9,000, but it's possible that there was an additional payment and the marble itself was 9,000, and then there was an additional payment for fabrication, in which case I want to say it might have been like 13 altogether, but I don't remember. It's either $9,000 or $13,000, and that sounds like a big difference, but like I'm starting to go cross-eyed all these bills. I like can't really remember all of them, so one or the other. But that was the process of picking the stone and fabricating it. It was really fun to go to the stone yard IRL and look at all the different ones and to pick one that just felt like so, I was literally like magnetically attracted to it. I was obsessed and I talked about it for like weeks. So I just knew it was the right stone for me, and I knew like what I was getting into with like it being a difficult stone and it being expensive, and I was fine with that. Especially because, again, like looking at the kitchen in its final form, like that's the personality piece. Like you can get white cabinets anywhere. You can buy a gold faucet anywhere. You can get an oven anywhere. But like that is the defining characteristic of my kitchen, is the piece of stone. And so I was like, that's what I'm gonna spend the money on. Oh, someone asked what kind of stone this is. So again, it's the Calcutta Brescia Viola. And it comes in all different like colorways, and the grain is always a little bit different. The marbling is always different. That's why you go in person to pick your exact piece of rock that they're gonna use. And I loved mine because there was a lot of like the veining. I thought it was so beautiful, and I love the high contrast, and I love that it's a color. I just think that's cool. A couple people asking, how do you make it work cooking and prepping food in this smallest space? So actually part of my decision-making process was in order to ensure that I had enough room to cook and prep food, and that was opening up more counter space. If you look at this picture of the old kitchen, you can see there's literally like 6 inches of counter space, and that was a little difficult for me because the way I cook at home mostly is honestly like I'll make a bowl or a salad, and so it's a lot of like chopping, and I basically needed counter space and stovetop space and like a little bit of sink, way more than I needed space in the fridge, because again, I grocery shop every single day. But then when you like have everything out and you're making the actual food, it's actually way easier if you have a little more counter space. Now, I did think about doing a rolling island, but it was really important for me to have a dining room table, like even if it was a little one. And so I'll put a picture of the dining room table here. It's very cute. It's really more like a kitchen table because it's a 4-seater. But that was more important to me than having a whole island. And I thought about doing bar stools, but I wanted 4 seats. I wanted to be able to like have another couple over or have my parents over and like eat dinner with them at the table. So for me, that's enough space. Like it's a cutting board and some things on the countertop, and like that's fine. Like bowls, cups, whatever I need. The fact that I had been cooking with like teeny tiny amount of space before, and this is a major upgrade. I like doubled the amount of space I have. So for me, it's not a problem, and I'm not really a fan of having too many cooks in the kitchen, quite literally, like that's not a pun. I like get out of my way. Like if I'm making food, get out of my way. And my boyfriend doesn't really cook, and like when we were talking about him moving in, we were kind of like, how are we gonna divide things up? I love to do laundry because I'm really particular about how it's done kind of, and I love to cook. So those are my jobs. He's on dishes, which basically means rinsing and putting directly in the dishwasher. He's on like garbage, you know, like blue jobs. I don't wanna do those. Anyway, it's enough space for me. Ooh, best renovation advice. I feel like I could give a ton right now, but the one that helped me the most, I would say there's 2 things. Number 1 is get an amazing team. And I mean a team that's not just like nice and pleasant to work with and you vibe with them, but a team who has experience doing exactly what you want to do. Like ask to see samples of their work. Ask them, when's the last time you worked in a space this small, and like what did you do to maximize the space? If your priority, like for me, is like I want to open up space, make you feel bigger, like the fact that my interior designers came up with this fridge drawer situation, I'm so much happier with that than I would be with a full fridge. And that's a personal preference, but they were able to bring that option to the table and allow me to make an informed decision based on all the options. And I cannot tell you how many of the other interior designers were like, well, it sucks that 2 feet are gonna be taken up by the fridge minimum. And it's just like, it doesn't have to be that way, you know? So, and then cannot stress enough how good my contractor is. Like any stupid question that pops into my head, he has an answer for me and he can like talk me through it. He's talked me down off a ledge a million times. He has 3 daughters. And so I think he's like used to the girly pop antics and like drama of it all. And I'm not dramatic, but I am like I wanna know what's going on. I wanna be informed. I have really strong opinions. And like, I don't know anything about renovating a home. It's my first time. So I have some stupid questions, and he's like so good. And he kind of just like knows what to do. So like, if I want advice, he's able to give it to me and be like, honestly, this is the best way to do it. And here's how you can save money doing it if you want to, or here's how to do it like 100% exactly how you want, even though it's a little more expensive. And then he like just has a team of guys who just like do it. And like, I don't need to be stressed. He's really like amazing. So like, advice number 1 is just have an amazing team. And then advice number 2 is lower your expectations for the timeline. When I tell you it has been 16 months just to even get started, I'm not exaggerating at all. And luckily, my team has been amazing in terms of like, once they started breaking up my kitchen with a sledgehammer, it all started to move really quickly. And it's only been like 3 weeks maybe total since they like walked in and took a sledgehammer to my countertop. And that is very unusual. Everyone I've spoken to is like, oh, cool, they demolished my kitchen and then left it for 2 months before they started putting in the new one. That's my worst nightmare, but I've had a long process for different reasons. And my original plan, being like a naive girl who had never bought a house before, was I will literally get this renovation done before I move in. Girl, oh my God, I like feel bad for that girl, that version of me who thought that was an option. I was living in an apartment and paying rent back then, and I closed on this apartment, and I was like, cool, I have like 2 months left of renting, so I'll just like get the renovation done before I even get in there. Adorable. Not even close. 16 months of living here. So 18 months after that is when they started my renovation. Just lower your expectations. Put the bar on the floor and you'll be so much happier. And like, that's honestly my second best piece of advice. That's it. So good team and lower your expectations on timeline, no matter how good your team is, because it's like not up to them a lot of the time. It's like, oh, the stone took an extra week to fabricate. Oh, it didn't ship in time. Oh, the hardware came and it's like the wrong color. Like I ordered my knobs and stuff in this like gold brass finish, and like all of them came correct except one was black. So I had to like return it and exchange it. That's another week and a half. So just like don't have timeline expectations maybe at all. Ooh, by what % did this project exceed the initial budget you had? Curious what's normal. And then there were a bunch of other questions that were like, what was your budget for the project? I didn't budget in advance. That's probably kind of irresponsible now that I'm saying it, and it sounds irresponsible even to me. But I made a decent sized down payment so that my monthly payment would be smaller on the mortgage. And so my monthly expenses are lower, but I did produce a lot of cash up front to secure the apartment. And so I kind of said to my team, this is like such a silly joke. I kind of said to my interior designers, because the space is so tiny, I was like, I would love to keep this project like around $10,000 to $12,000. Do you remember what I told you the marble cost? Like at least $9,000, but it's possible it cost more than the entire original budget. Some people I tell this to think I got screwed, and then some people are like, that's New York, and then some people are like, that's co-ops. So like, I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, I decided I would take it one step at a time. My interior designer told me what it would cost for me to like pay them. Then my contractor told me what it would cost for me to employ him to do the work. And then the interior designer said, here are some stone options and the price for each one. Here are some faucet options and the price for each one. Here are some ovens and dishwashers and cabinets and the price for all of them. Sorry, we lost the memory card, so I just had to switch it out. I maxed that out. I didn't expect to be chatting for 40 minutes about this, my bad. I'm a yapper. Anyway, I was just kept informed and aware of the prices of everything at all times, so I was able to make incremental decisions about what I was comfortable with. I'm not saying that every single thing I picked was the lowest price available. That wasn't my priority. My priority was getting the kitchen and the home that I like so desperately wanted for over a year. And I was willing to spend some extra money to get everything I wanted. And honestly, there are some costs that are just unavoidable. And so to answer the question, I like keep justifying this as if it's accusatory. I know it's not. The answer is I exceeded my budget by a lot. I probably like tripled or quadrupled it. And that's actually another piece of renovation advice is like, if you're gonna have a budget, either make it so high you feel that it's unreasonable or leave a major cushion and just be prepared for unexpected expenses or for things to cost more than you think they do. Never in my life did I think a piece of rock could cost $10,000 for the amount of space. Because don't forget, the marble also doesn't go all the way. There's also it's 4 feet of marble. So I would just say I would bank on it being $1 billion, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised if you have money left over. So I exceeded the budget by a lot. But I also, in fairness, like my budget was based on nothing. I didn't know anything about renovating in New York when I started. And then as I went along and talked to other people who were renovating in New York, and like people DM'd me based on like what they saw on my Instagram, I started to understand a little bit like where the pricing was coming from. And I would do pulse checks like, hey, is this normal? Hey, is this not normal? There were times when things were not normal, but then I figured out why they weren't normal and then decided from there, like, is it worth it for me to go forward like this, or should I change the plan? I'm very happy that it's almost over and we're getting really close to paying like the final bills, like to wrap it up, but it's been a lot. And so, yeah, like I would really only pursue renovation if you have more money, way more money to spend than you think you need. Okay, we're moving along because I am maxing out all my memory cards doing this right now. Do you have a freezer? No. Is that your only kitchen? Yes. Guys, I am not made of money. This is normal for New York. And I'm assuming these questions come from someone who doesn't live in Manhattan, but like, this is a pretty nice kitchen for a little 1-bedroom apartment. Is that the whole kitchen? Guys, it kind of makes me feel bad. Like, it's so expensive. I'm doing my best. Wait, the sink is so tiny. Yeah. Very, very nice. All of you who just said no questions, it's just beautiful. I love you. You're allowed to ask questions, but if you don't have any and you just want to say it's beautiful, that's fine. It's fine with me. Are you incorporating any kind of pull-out features to maximize the space? This is kind of what I was talking about before with my interior designers, coming up with like the idea of like the pull-out cutting board and stuff. The answer is no, I didn't go with any of those things. I decided that the counter space was enough for what I was doing in the kitchen. And I decided not to do the island because I wanted the kitchen table. I think the fridge was like the biggest space maximizing thing that we did, was like to remove the fridge and give me more counter space and like air and cabinetry. Like that's good for me. But no, that's it for that. But I think the pull-out countertop is a really good idea, or like pull-out cutting board. And I also like the rolling island idea. Those are two things that we kind of toyed with when we were doing the rendering. I think that's it. Hopefully that answered all your questions at this stage. I don't know the exact color of the cabinets. Someone asked that because they were custom made, and I just was not privy to that information. I can find out if you really want to know and you DM me. I can find out for you. I'll text my designers and let you know. But they're white, you know, like I just said, can I have a white cabinet? And they're like, sure. And overall, I think like the thing that I leave this whole process with is I'm glad I did it, because it makes my home feel like home to me. Like it makes it feel like it's mine and not someone else's that I'm like living in. And now I've been living here for over a year, and every single day I love it more. I am more confident every single day that this was the right decision for me to live in this area, to specifically live in this building, to renovate the kitchen, to add the air conditioning. It's expensive and it's stressful and it's overwhelming and it's exhausting, but it is so rewarding. And this is the first time in my life, and I think any first time homeowner can probably relate. It's just the first time in my life that I've had a place, I'm gonna get like choked up, okay? It's the first time in my life that I've had a place that is just mine. And I'm really, really proud that I was able to make that dream a reality at 26 when I bought it, and now at 28 when I'm finishing the renovation. And I love this city and I would do anything to have a home here forever. And so I made it work, and I'm really happy with the way it is right now. And next week, the painting will be done, the furniture will all be in place, the art will be on the walls, and perhaps the most fun part of it all is that my boyfriend is moving in We've been together a little bit over a year, and his lease was ending at the end of August, so we were like, let's move in together. But my renovation wasn't even done. I couldn't imagine going and like paying the mortgage here and then also paying a shit ton in rent to rent a bigger place for the two of us, like somewhere nearby. It just felt silly. And then I would have never gotten to like experience this apartment as a finished product that's like my place in the world. So anyway, he's moving in. Who knows? There's like a fuzz literally floating directly in front of the lens right now that I want to grab so bad. Who knows what the future holds with this apartment? My goal is to keep it, again, like through having kids, like maybe even longer than that. And if my kids don't want to be in New York and I'm ready to part with it, maybe I'll sell it. Who knows? One thing that I do know is that the unit next to mine is a studio, and there's a very nice elderly couple that owns it, but they don't stay in it a lot. And I mean, like, it's kind of a pipe dream, but I could see us buying that and then busting through the wall and making this a 2-bed, 2-bath. Cause like, who knows? Again, who knows what the future holds? There could be a kid that we have here. There could just be need for like a home office or second bedroom. Like, the opportunities are endless. Even if we just get it and like use it as a closet, office space, like whatever, that's an option. So who knows? That apartment is not for sale right now, so it's not like in the near term. It's a potential long-term plan if we want to expand, because again, I love this building. I love this place. I love my neighbors. I love the team who works here. I love the neighborhood. I love everything about it, and I'm just really happy with the overall decision. So when it's finished, I'll do a little, I think probably an apartment tour, like why I keep it to the kitchen. My bedroom is not done. We're also painting the walls in here. I have to like do a lot more decor. So I think probably an apartment tour, or we'll just split it up. Like we'll do like a kitchen tour, a bedroom tour, a living space tour, like who knows. But that's it. And I just wanted to kind of tell that story in a longer format because the story behind it is kind of like meaningful to me. And then also you guys had a ton of questions, and I wanted to give you answers that felt like they actually fully answered the question. I didn't want to be like, how much was the stone? And it's like $9,000. Like, that sounds crazy. But I just wanted to explain a little bit of the reasoning behind all these decisions and like what works for me and why it works for me. And if that's not what works for you, I respect that. And I appreciate you guys like being interested. I think this is like such a fun project for me, and it's cool that other people care about it too. So that's it. Sorry for talking for 8 years about it. That feels crazy, but next time I'll bring extra memory cards. Okay, love you guys.